Samsung, proud sponsor of Tech Busters.
Welcome to Oracle Day 2014. We're in Johannesburg and there are hundreds of delegates over here at Gallagher Estates coming to listen to Oracle's vision of this digital disruption, this digital economy we've been talking about. The keynote address was delivered by Oracle's Vice President and spokesperson, Bob Evans, and he's joining us here at Gallagher Estates to talk about this digital disruption and what it means to businesses and how it's going to affect you in the next few years. And right now, in fact, no time to wait for the digital disruption, because if you wait, you'll get run over, unfortunately, and that's the reality. Bob, thanks for joining us. What does digital disruption mean to you?
There's just a number of things, and it's a pleasure to be here. I think one of the things we're trying to talk about today is this whole pace of change is just being crunched down, right? Because consumers have more information at their disposal. They've got more channels through which they can buy. They have less affinity with the brands they bought from in the past, and they're just more knowledgeable about what's happening. They're demanding better value, more choices, more insights into what they really want. So on the seller side, it requires companies to rethink how they've done things rather than just doing them in the traditional way. They have to do things with the customer truly at the center of all their thinking.
So I think what you're basically saying, when you're combining the software together with the big data into the cloud, really this is making companies more agile and giving them this incredible power to have this finger on the pulse to understand exactly what they are doing, what their consumers are doing, and what their competitors are doing. And this is the critical part, is it not?
It is, Aki. Most enterprise software applications were written 20 or 25 years ago. That was before mobile, before search, before social, before the web, a lot of those things. It's just not possible for those systems and applications to keep up with what's going on in the world today, and that's part of the disruption side. Companies might have the intention to try to keep up with it. They don't have the technological capability to do that. And it does require the modern tools that you mentioned, from cloud, big data, analytics, and a real keen intent on the mobile devices through which most people want to experience the world these days.
I mean, share with us some other great examples that, we're using analytics and big data to solve complex problems and make organizations and even police forces, as you mentioned, more agile.
Yeah, so the big consumer products company, Procter & Gamble,
yes.
They do about 4 billion transactions a day. And their CIO, Filippo Passerini, recently said at Open World that he said what they find is it's much less interesting for the company, much less valuable for them to be able to say, well, this is what we sold yesterday or last week or last month or last quarter. But the greater value is coming in being able to understand what's going to happen in the next week, the next month. How do they match up supply and demand? How do they anticipate what consumers are going to want? How do you react around the world on a scale of like 4 billion transactions a day, real-time pricing, dynamic inventory adjustments. So it's the arrow of time, Aki, that sort of shifted from historically saying what happened to pointing to the future, what will happen.
So where is this all going? I mean, you hear of artificial intelligence, you hear of the software and machines making those kind of decisions. Are we heading to that world eventually?
Yeah, well, the artificial intelligence angle's always been interesting. I think more importantly, human intelligence can handle it if we provide those humans with the right sort of things to look at, the right scenarios of what's happening. When we had so much imperfect or out-of-date intelligence, then we felt, oh, it's going to require a computer to figure this out. I think humans are very well able to handle this, provided they're given the right sort of scenarios that look into things, and that's where your point about big data can be a resource or a raw material for companies to build new products and services from that.
Yeah. I found your comments quite interesting when you mentioned that this digital transformation, this digital disruption that we're talking about has got to happen within companies. We've seen many companies fail because they came on too late, they didn't understand the market conditions. How does a company start this whole implementation, this whole process of transforming into a digitally relevant company using the resources like big data and using the cloud effectively? Because for many organizations, it's quite intimidating.
It is. I think the best place to start, as always, is with an understanding of the customers. And I think too many organizations, Aki, had a tiny percentage of their employees engage with customers, right? And the rest of the company was just sort of doing things in a status quo fashion. Well, if customers are driving everything from how products are developed to where they're sold, how they're marketed, what sort of service is done with them, what part of a company today shouldn't have that greater eye into what customers are doing? So it's a mindset that has to come from the CEO. We're going to do things differently. We're going to have our focus on what's going on out there in the marketplace, and we need to develop the tools that gives every employee at every step of the process unparalleled insights into what's happening so they can all contribute. We don't have, years to try to play catch up with our customers anymore. It's got to happen within months at first, cut down to weeks, and then days.
And of course, I like what you said about it's going to be culturally happening right across the company, from the top right down to the bottom, because many companies keep that information at the top, and not everybody is on the same page.
Right, and then there's a surprise sometimes, like, why don't those people get it? But if the people are not given the right sort of tools to understand what's happening in the market, how can my department be involved in this? They're just not going to be able to participate in the way they should. And we think at Oracle that one of the problems companies had is, right, a lot of that was created by siloed applications, so that the HR application didn't really connect in with the financial application, which didn't connect in with manufacturing. So we're trying to help companies shorten those processes, bring those things together, so there's a shared pool of common information and insight that's going to lead to some of this allowing companies to be on the disruptor side of the digital disruption dynamic.
Fantastic. Bob Evans, a great pleasure to have you in South Africa. Thank you for chatting to us on Tech Busters.
Aki, thank you very much. A pleasure to be here.